Race 2 is about to get underway here, and it's a lot drier than it was for race 1, and for Luke, it's a second chance, mate.
Yeah, it's error on my part, not the mechanics. I tried to get involved with the mechanics, and yeah, you saw what happened. I broke down, so I had to start the race from the back of the grid. But luckily for the new format, I've got another pole, so yeah, new chance. Johnny on second, so it should be good fun.
That's a good point, actually, Jonathan. You were alongside Luke on the front of the grid. That should be a nice barn dance to cops, eh?
Yeah, definitely. I can trust Luke anyway. Well, I hope anyway. And hopefully we can just get away and do his own battle towards the end.
Well, the two of you better watch your backs because you've got James coming up as well. So, James, how do you think you can find a way past these two, do you think?
I've got a long way to come up the grid. Sadly, qualifying didn't go very well, and nor did the first race. But I'll do my best and see whether I can catch up to the back of these boys.
It's going to be an interesting one here on the Silverstone circuit. Of the two of you on the front row, who do you think is going to get the better of the other?
Unfortunately here, for pole, it's on the outside for the first corner. So I think Johnny might have the advantage if he can get off the line well into the first corner. But then, is it a good idea to be ahead down that straight for the first lap? Probably not.
Well, Jonathan's saying no.
No, definitely not.
No,
I think I'll stick behind Luke, to be honest with you. Yeah, definitely.
Whereas you'll be just carving your way through the field like Billy-O.
Yeah.
Sounds like my kind of thing. Thank you, boys.
Cheers.
Well, there you go. That's the kind of action we're going to get in the Mazda MX-5 SuperCup, and racing is nearly upon us. Over to you, Andy McEwan.
Thanks, Jake. Well, cars are lining up on the grid, and as we heard, it is a second chance here for Luke Herbert, who lines up on the pole position alongside Johnny Greensmith on the front row. Jack Harding and Aidan Hills are on row 2, with William Stacey, our race 1 winner, down on row 3 with Gary Townsend. Richard Wickland and James Harris make up the 4th row of the grid. Rounding out the top 10 are Nick Dunn and Colin Bysouth ahead of Steve Roberts and James Blake Baldwin, who should make progress like he did in the first race. Then Carl Gardner and Simon Baldwin, with Christian White and Sam Tatler on row 8. Row 9 for Will Stevenson and Alec Livesley. Then it's Jack Sycamore and Alex King rounding out the top 20 ahead of Darren Stapleton and Nick Rutter. Once again, it is a packed grid. 35 cars on the circuit. They got through the first lap more or less unscathed in race 1 until they reached Brooklands. This time in the dry conditions, the speeds will be considerably higher and the competition should be all the more fraught. The red lights go on, they go out now, and we are away. Great start from Luke Herbert from pole position. He should retain the lead down in towards Copse Corner. Everyone is cleanly ahead, but yes, Herbert leads. Second place for Greensmith, and Aidan Hills is through into 3rd position as they turn into the first corner. But it is a textbook start from the reigning champion, and this time he's got clear air ahead of him. No one to overtake. However, Mazda MX-5 Racing is renowned for its slipstreaming action, and already we can see that Greensmith and Aidan Hills are closing in. Greensmith almost gets into the back of the leader and then does get a bit of contact from Aidan Hills behind him. Oh, and there's contact with a spinner back in the pack. That's the number 16 car that's gone around and miraculously is avoided by everyone. That's Simon Baldwin. That's James Blake Baldwin's stepbrother, and he is very lucky to get away without more serious damage there. Leaders down towards Brooklands. Defensive line taken by Luke Herbert. Greensmith looks to the outside, and up the inside comes Jack Harding. 3 abreast for 2nd place. Harding on the inside, Aidan Hills on the outside, and Greensmith pinned in the middle. And somehow it's Johnny that comes out with 2nd place. Harding 3rd, and Aidan Hills has to settle for 4th. Well, that was fantastic racing, but it's just allowed Luke Herbert to maybe pull a car length or so's advantage. Back through Woodcote we go. One of the key things with MX-5 racing is to try and break the toe. Once you can pull maybe a 1 second gap over the cars behind you, then they can't get your slipstream, and it's very difficult for them to catch you again. And this is something that Luke Herbert is a real master of, getting out in front, getting his head down and putting in essentially a series of qualifying laps to try and build the gap over the rest of the field. Johnny Greensmith, though, is starting to inch back towards his rear bumper, so I don't think Herbert's going to have it that easily in this race. On the brakes into Beckett's, wide line in, tight line out, trying to carry the momentum down the back straight. Here's some of the dicing going on behind. That's the number 17 car of Nick Dunn we saw running a bit wide there, the Clapham North liveried machine, and that lost him a few positions. One of some of the drivers we were watching for further back. James Blake Baldwin got his way from 12th to 9th on the first lap, so keep an eye on the other blue car with the orange stripes. It's up the inside again for 2nd place. Looks Jack Harding. That late lunge, but you always run the risk of the driver in front not seeing you there and turning in, and I think Jack decided that at this early stage discretion was the better part of valour, and he just backed out of the manoeuvre before any paint was traded. Behind these, by the way, the grey car is Richard Wickland in 5th position. Will Stacey, our race 1 winner, is 6th. Now, Will started this race in 5th, so he's sort of held position more or less, and James Blake Baldwin there, the blue and orange car, just about tagged onto the tail end of the lead pack. So what have we got? Essentially 8 cars battling for the top 8 positions, nose to tail. Replay of the start here, you can see that everyone did get away cleanly. Bit of a slow start for one car further back, but they, I think, managed to get it all recovered. And Luke Herbert it was who led into the first turn. But by the time they arrived back down at the end of the Wellington straight, there's the contact with Simon Baldwin. Hard to see who that was that collected him in the pack, but very easy to do that. So back down towards Brooklyn as we go, and Jack Harding, we're back with live pictures now. Jack Harding this time has made it stick. He's got up the inside of Johnny Greensmith and takes second position. So Jack Harding, after 3 laps of trying that move, he finally gets it right and takes over the second position. But look at the time they've lost to Luke Herbert. Can they close him back down? In theory, what these drivers should now be doing is working together, not trying to overtake each other, and try to close back in on the lead, but trying to get those sort of strategies communicated between each other in a race situation is not all that easy. Johnny Greensmith, though, is a very experienced racer. He won championships in Mazda MX-5 racing before switching over to Porsche racing, where he became a double champion, before making the switch back to Mazda MX-5s a couple of years ago. And you can see he is not even attempting to overtake Jack Harding, simply sitting in the wheel tracks, working together, working that slipstream to try to lap quicker than the race leader. Herbert had nearly a 1 second advantage at the start of the lap. I would say to the eye, it is coming down ever so slightly. Richard Wickland there in 5th, and James Blake Baldwin is now 6th, so the last time I checked in on him he was 9th, he's now 6th. That's the blue car with the orange stripes, number 4, really making good progress. There he is, in behind Richard Wickland, behind him is Harris, and there Will Stacey losing position, which is something we haven't seen much of this weekend, and that's Carl Garner, the white and orange car. He's not quite made the move stick yet though. Will fights back up the inside into Luffield. This is over 8th position, so Stacey had 8th, Garnett wanted it, and Will Stacey, look at that, you could not get any closer without trading paint, but it looks as though Will Stacey is going to have to play second fiddle here. Carl Garnett had the momentum around the outside line and takes over 8th position as they cross the start-finish line. Back down in towards Copse Corner, lap number 5 begins. Still 15 minutes left of this though, which is the good news, and we don't anticipate the racing getting any less frenetic than this from now until the checkered flag. Back with the second place battle now in towards Beckett's. Harding has that second place, but they are not catching the leader. The gap went out by another 10th or so last time around. Luke Herbert set a personal best lap. The man I think to watch here is James Blake Baldwin. He's caught this lead group now, and he is looking to try and make a move on the 5th place man, Richard Wickland. So keep an eye on the silver car, Richard Wickland, the blue and orange car of James Blake Baldwin, and James is going for it up the inside line. Nicely done if this works. He's late enough on the brakes. He gets to the apex first, and the former champion is up into the top 5. Now, what further progress can he make? Aidan Hills is his next target there in the light blue and orange car. But James Blake Baldwin is on a charge. Remember, he started 12th, but he didn't start particularly strongly in yesterday's race either, and managed to work his way through into 5th position by the end. So he's proven already that he is a real master of overtaking here at Silverstone. For second place, Johnny Greensmith and Jack Harding are dicing, and that opens the door for Aidan Hills around the outside. So all of that working together didn't last very long, did it? They're now deciding to fight over second, and that's going to give Luke Herbert an even bigger advantage at the front of the field. But clearly Johnny Greensmith feels that if he was at the front of this group, maybe they'd all be able to go a bit quicker. He's about to lose a place though, because Aidan Hills gets up the inside. What a cheeky move that was, but it was executed perfectly. Aidan Hills moves through into 3rd place, and that now loses Greensmith momentum and brings James Blake Baldwin alongside him. Baldwin will be on the outside line down towards Brooklands though, so this is far from a done deal just yet. Wheel to wheel into the braking zone, Greensmith on the inside, Blake Baldwin on the outside, and if he'd have risked going around the outside there, he would quite possibly have lost a couple of positions. So he decided, I'm going to sit back in line and wait for a better opportunity to maybe get up the inside of Greensmith, which could be here. He's nudging, he's tapping Morse code onto the rear bumper of the number 2 machine, but still can't quite prise the door open, can he? Greensmith hangs on then to the position. They flash across the start-finish line, but I'm interested to see what the lead will be for Luke Herbert. Well, actually, they only lost a 10th of a second to him with all of that battling, so 1.5 seconds is the distance between Herbert and Harding. And then the next 4 or 5 cars covered by less than a second. Out of Copse Corner, Blake Baldwin looking to the inside of Greensmith. Couldn't draw alongside on the run towards Beckett's. What about under braking, though? no, Greensmith defends the inside, just snatches a break. That was just the unweighted rear left wheel, because of course into Beckett's there, you're actually braking and turning left through maggots as well, and so it's quite easy to lock the brakes and drift a bit wide. Greensmith made the apex though and hangs on to that 4th position for the time being. So Harding into 2nd, Aidan Hills is there in 3rd, and they're all jockeying for position. Hills is up the inside and going for 2nd place. This is brave for Harding. He's going to try and hang around the outside, but Hills, I think, has the position. Does he? We'll wait and see. Yes, Aidan Hills gets it. So Aidan Hills into 2nd position, Harding down to 3rd, but Blake Baldwin has finally found a way past Johnny Greensmith. So Greensmith, whose race started off very positively in 2nd position, has now started to just slip further down the order. He should be able to hang on to the back of Blake Baldwin though, and maybe try to follow him past Jack Harding, which is a move that I feel is imminent, because Harding actually gets up the inside of Aidan Hills. How on earth did he do that? I don't think he meant to be honest. I think he was defending so hard for his 3rd place that he braked later than Aidan Hills in front of him and went up the inside. He then runs too wide on the exit though, so Hills gets back ahead of him and Blake Baldwin will follow, possibly into Beckett's. Harding is late on the brakes though. Can he find a gap in line? Blake Baldwin could make 2 places in 1 if he plays his cards right here. Aidan Hills doesn't know which way to go to try to defend his newly acquired 2nd position. So it's a long train of cars on the inside, and the man being left out of all of the fun here is James Blake Baldwin. He's on the outside, and he could lose a couple of spots here. Hills holds on to 2nd, Harding goes 3rd, and yeah, Greensmith goes 4th. So all of that hard work to find a way past Jonathan Greensmith is now undone for James Blake Baldwin as he drops back behind the number 2 machine. Richard Wicklin is in behind, and then James Harris and Carl Garnett. Will Stacey, though, you see the blue car in the background, our Race 1 winner, has just slipped out of the picture ever so slightly. He would very much like to see the cars in front continue to trip over each other and hold themselves up to possibly allow him to join back into the fight for possibly a top 5 position. So, approaching half race distance, 10.5 minutes still remaining. Luke Herbert has a 2.1 second lead over this pack of cars, still jostling over 2nd place. It is Aidan Hills that has it. Jack Harding wants it. Johnny Greensmith had it before and wants it back. And James Blake Baldwin, oh, Aidan Hills sideways in 2nd place. Can he hold on to it? Oh, what a save! Fantastic car control from Aidan Hills, but it will cost him several positions. Harding goes 2nd, Greensmith 3rd, Blake Baldwin 4th, and Richard Wicklin now gets himself alongside Aidan Hills as well. That was just a little too late on the brakes into Beckett's there for Aidan Hills, and unfortunately it's cost him dear. So Jack Harding is now disputing 2nd place with Jonathan Greensmith and James Blake Baldwin again, 3 of the regular front runners in the championship, these 3. And James Blake Baldwin and Johnny Greensmith really both felt they had a bit of a disappointing year last year. This is a replay of what happened to Hills, and I just think he carried a mile an hour or two too much speed into Beckett's there, lost the rear, but that was the longest slide I've ever seen through that corner. He ran off track, but crucially the car did not swap ends. 2nd place battle descending on Copse Corner, and somehow they're all still in the same position. Contact between Blake Baldwin and Greensmith there. Oh, off wide goes, well, several cars actually. Will Stacey, and there's one car in the gravel in the background at Copse Corner. That was possibly Steve Roberts, I think, in the number 56 machine, who had just been about to close back in on this group. Aidan Hills, not deterred by his moment down here at Beckett's a lap ago, is now throwing it up the inside of James Blake Baldwin. Oh, and interesting hand gestures from James Blake Baldwin there as they exited the corner. I don't think he's best pleased with that move that Aidan Hills just tried to pull off. They're still side by side though as they head now down towards Brooklands Corner. Blake Baldwin on the inside, outside for Aidan Hills. Richard Wicklin might be able to pick up a couple of positions as well. And yes, he does. So Aidan Hills, having thought he was about to gain a position, actually loses one now to the grey car of Richard Wicklin. Black and green car is James Harris, who has done many years of racing in Mark I Mazdas and lately made the step up into the SuperCup. He's trying to get up the inside of the number 8 car of Aidan Hills as they make their way through Woodcote, but that doesn't quite pay off. Replay here of, well, I mean, there was a gap up the inside for Aidan, wasn't there? And there was no contact. I think it's maybe that on the exit that James didn't like, where Aidan tried to show him the edge of the track. And one feels there may be a discussion about that after the race. There might be discussions about this after the race as well, because they're 3 abreast for 2nd place. Down towards Beckett's, and James Blake Baldwin passes the pair of them. Fantastic driving from James Blake Baldwin. You can tell he's a former champion, and he goes from 4th to 2nd in one fell swoop. Greensmith is just about 3rd, but Jack Harding is fighting back. Harding was 2nd a couple of corners ago, now he's down to 4th, as we have a yellow flag down at Brooklands. Now come on boys, there's no overtaking under yellow flag conditions. Try telling them that, because they're 4 abreast now into the braking zone. How on earth are they going to settle this out? Blake Baldwin holds on to 2nd, Greensmith 3rd, Harding 4th, Wickland is now 5th ahead of Aidan Hills in 6th, James Harris 7th, and Will Stacey, this is exactly what he wanted, isn't it? Because he's been able to take advantage of their battling to close in as well. So it's 2, 4, 6, 7 car battle this for 2nd place. It is for 2nd place, though not for the race lead, because Luke Herbert has checked out. You can see him in the distance, gesturing to his pit crew, I guess, on the pit wall there, but he is 3.4 seconds clear of the rest of the field. You'd think that would make for a dull and uneventful race, but when the racing for 2nd is this exciting, that is not the case. Right, car in the gravel, that's James Kell, who's gone off down at Brooklands. That was the reason for the yellow flag, we presume, a lap ago, but the live snatch vehicle is there to pick him up and get the car out of the way. Oh, big contact, Richard Wickland and Will Stacey that was. Will Stacey came from absolutely nowhere and took out Richard Wickland. That was a big shunt, but Richard Wickland is getting out of the car. Will Stacey exited stage right. He's halfway down the hanger straight by this point, I'd imagine. What on earth happened there? Well, there's the good news. They're both getting out of the cars, but that was Will Stacey, yesterday's race winner, and the youngster, well, something went catastrophically wrong then down into Beckett's corner, and he's somehow come into contact significantly with Richard Wickland. Here's a replay. Will Stacey arrives out of nowhere. That must have been something went wrong with the car there for that to happen. That car had not slowed down one bit. So Wickland and Stacey out, but thankfully they both appear to be shaken but not too stirred. They're both getting out of their cars, but there will be a hefty repair job to be done before race 3 to get those 2 back out. Of course, if they do get back out, they'll be starting at the back of the grid as well. The race is flying by. We've got less than 6 minutes to go, and we are getting hands out of the cockpit there for James Blake Baldwin. That's warning, I presume, the cars behind about the yellow flag that will, of course, be out of Beckett's whilst the marshals deal with the incident down there. The ever-efficient Great British Marshals on the scene instantly to make sure the drivers are okay. So we've got yellow flags at Brooklands, we've got yellow flags up at Beckett's as well, so half the circuit is now a no overtaking zone. Not that that really bothers this guy, because Luke Herbert hasn't had anyone to overtake all race, and this was all too often the story of last season as well, because Luke, as I mentioned at the start of the race, really is very good at qualifying, so he tends to qualify on the front row, and then he can get the start and build the gap. And we've seen that once he built that sort of 1 second margin over the rest of the field, they all started falling over each other trying to catch him, and Luke has just been able to sail off into the distance. So 13 laps completed, just under 5 minutes remain in the race. Herbert leads by 3.1 seconds over, well, it was James Blake Baldwin, but it's now Jack Harding, because Jack Harding has got up the inside of Cobb's corner. He runs a bit wide though, they're both a bit slow out of the turn, and Johnny Greensmith thinks, I'll have a bit of this, and goes to the outside. Now, can he do what James Blake Baldwin did a lap or so ago? No, he can't, because the yellow flags are out, and so he has to slot in between them. But 3rd place now for Johnny Greensmith, down to 4th for James Blake Baldwin. I don't think we've had a lap go by where there hasn't been a change for position in a podium place. This has been fantastic racing. It's a shame we lost Will Stacey out of the battle of Richard Wickland as well, but the rest of them have really provided entertainment down towards Brooklands, where the green flags, I believe, are now flying again, so they can overtake into this corner once more. Not that they were able to find a way past Jack Harding on this occasion. There's Herbert, then we wait. There is Harding, Greensmith, Blake Baldwin, Aidan Hills, and James Harris still in the mix as well. He's just been sort of solidly hanging on to the tail end of this group and picking up places where he can, and it's brought him into 6th place now. Nick Dunn, by the way, is 7th, Colin Bysouth is 8th, Darren Stapleton is 9th, and Steve Roberts, despite that gravelly moment a few laps ago, is down in 10th. Herbert continuing there to gesture towards his pit crew. The last 3 laps he's come across the line, he's had his hand out of the car, waving furiously at someone on the pit wall. Was that contact there between Harding and Greensmith possibly at Cobb's corner? Oh, Greensmith almost on the grass, and now they're back into the yellow flag zone, so in theory no overtaking, but I'm not entirely sure what order they were in when they arrived at the scene of the yellow flag, to be honest. Well be that those yellow flags stay out for the duration of the race now with only 3 minutes to go, but it saves throwing the safety car and spoiling what has been a fantastic race race long really between this lot. Look at them fan out down the Wellington straight. Aidan Hill's in the blue car going to the inside. To the outside is James Blake Baldwin. In the middle is Johnny Greensmith, and he's the big loser in that. He loses 2 positions. Aidan Hills might gain 2 positions. Yes, he does. Aidan Hills goes from 5th to 3rd in 1 corner. That was a beautiful execution of a slingshot pass down the Wellington straight. He used that double slipstream to pull alongside, got to the inside line, and was late enough on the brakes to make it stick. And now James Harris is up the inside of Johnny Greensmith. James Harris with 2 wheels on the grass. Oh, that was very close. I think they avoided contact though. Back down towards Copse Corner they go. Back marker Ian McDonald there getting out of the way of the race leader, but this is the battle to watch. And now Blake Baldwin comes back at Aidan Hills up the inside. He's a bit sideways. He runs Aidan Hills out over the exit curve. He wasn't too happy when Aidan did that to him earlier on, was he? So but there's an apology there, I think, possibly from Blake Baldwin. Meanwhile, check in with some of the battles further back through Luffield. They are some of the tail enders. The leaders are unlikely to catch them though, with only 2 minutes remaining in the race. Luke Herbert in blissful isolation here. The bonnet just flapping loose slightly, but I don't think that's going to cause him too much of an issue. There should be 2 more laps to go after this one. So 2 more laps for Luke Herbert. There is Jack Harding 2nd, James Blake Baldwin 3rd, Aidan Hills 4th, 5th is Jonathan Greensmith, 6th place for James Harris, and then a huge 7-second gap back to Colin Bysouth, Nick Dunn, Darren Stapleton and Steve Roberts, who are fighting over the lower top 10 positions. So back through Woodcote we go, with the battles further back. So this is, well, there's Alec Livesley, the number 5 car. He's 14th. So these are the battles just outside the top 10. So number 62 there, that is a new driver to the championship, William Stevenson. He's running in 12th place. Then Sam Tackler 13th, Alec Livesley 14th. This is another battle well outside the top 20 even, but again, another championship where there are battles throughout the field, and you can see why Mazda MX-5 racing has become one of the most popular forms of club level motor racing in the UK, whether it be the SuperCup, this championship for the Mark III cars, or the original Mazda MX-5 championship for the Mark I machines. Both championships get fully subscribed grids and great racing throughout. Leader then, Luke Herbert, makes his way in towards Luffield Corner. 1 more lap to go for the reigning champion. Are they in the same order behind him as the last time we left them? I think they are, actually. So Jack Harding is still 2nd, with Blake Baldwin there in 3rd place. But what a frenetic race it's been. James Harris is determined to get into the top 5, isn't he? He's in 6th position at the moment. If he can find a way past Jonathan Greensmith, he will get himself, I believe, his first ever top 5 finish. Yes, because he was 7th yesterday, and that was his best ever result in the championship. Out through Copse Corner, bit of Morse code again. Oh, James Blake Baldwin completely sideways. He ran into the back of Jack Harding through Copse Corner. That lost him momentum, and Jonathan Greensmith arrived like a bullet behind him and just gently tagged the back of his car. There's a bit more paint traded between the two of them, but that's allowed Aidan Hills in the blue and orange car to go right round the outside of Jonathan Greensmith. He's got into 4th. Can he make the podium? 2 more corners to go, but this is one of the best overtaking opportunities on the track, and they've all got to sort this out in the space of the next 20 seconds or so. Luke Herbert's going to win, but who will be 2nd and 3rd? Harding has it at the moment. Blake Baldwin is 3rd, Aidan Hills in 4th. No change of position through Brooklands. What about Luffield? This is really the last chance to try and make anything stick. I don't think they're going to do it. So Jack Harding, I think, will hold on to 2nd place, but there is no disputing the race winner. Race 1 didn't go his way, but victory in round number 2 goes to Luke Herbert, the reigning champion, takes the checkered flag. 2nd place, I think, is going to be Jack Harding by 0.2 of a second. James Blake Baldwin 3rd, Aidan Hills 4th. James Harris did get past Jonathan Greensmith on the last lap, so he gets his first ever top 5 in the Mazda MX-5 SuperCup, with Jonathan Greensmith 6th, Colin Bysouth 7th. These are the battles further back. This is number 93, which is John Stack, and up the inside of him went number 91, which was Jack Sycamore, and that's well, these are outside of the top 20, but you can see they don't seem to care, do they? They're disputing these positions as if it's the last lap and you're fighting for a race victory. Novice crosses on the back of a few cars back here as well. Drivers maybe making their debut in motorsport, and this is what I call being thrown in at the deep end. Fantastic racing right to the line. Number 23 car that was of Mark Swarbrick in a battle with the number 99 car of Nick Rutter right down to the checkered flag. Well, what a dramatic race that was, and the drama continues after the checkered flag has fallen, with several drivers throughout the field being handed time penalties for exceeding the track limits, including the man who won the race on the road. Luke Herbert, the reigning champions weekend, goes from bad to worse as he is handed down a 10-second time penalty, demoting him from 1st to 6th. That means that Jack Harding inherits a race win, with James Blake Baldwin in 2nd, whilst Aidan Hills gets himself onto the podium. James Harris's first top 5 becomes a first top 4, with Johnny Greensmith rounding out that top 5. Herbert is down to 6th, ahead of Colin Bysouth and Carl Garnett, with Will Stevenson 9th and Simon Baldwin in 10th. 11th is Sam Tatler ahead of Christian White and Alex King, whilst Darren Stapleton and Steve Roberts were both also handed hefty time penalties. Jeremy Crook is 16th ahead of George Grant. Alec Livesley, Tom Parker and Gary Townsend, meanwhile, were also on the naughty list and were handed penalties post-race.
First of all, where do we start with that race? I mean, how do you sum that one up?
I have no idea. The tour around here is just absolutely immense. So if you're in the lead or you're in 2nd and you've got cars behind you having to defend, it's so difficult. Really, you want to be the car behind because you're getting a good run, and the only way to stop them coming through is try to slow it down the apexes and just hope they don't get a run coming out. But the worst person to have behind you as well as James Blake Baldwin. Really intense, but no, it was a good race, and I'm glad to come home with 2nd.
Yeah, you had a really good knack of covering the inside apexes at Copse and Beckett's in particular. I think that's where a lot of the battle was won. Yeah,
it might have looked easy, but it wasn't. It was quite scary as well because they're coming full speed and you're trying to slow it down, and yeah, it's close. But no, we did really well. The boys put a new engine in overnight last night, Team AK Automotive, because we were down on power yesterday, and the engine ran pretty good there. So no, I'm really pleased with that.
Well, reverse grid race coming up. Can we get a victory?
I'll give it a go. See what it's like.
Nice one, Jack. Thank you.
No worries, thank you.
Talk us through that race. I mean, first of all, the start. I mean, that was pretty spectacular.
Yeah, the start went quite well for once. You know, I'm renowned for being a bad starter, but somehow pot luck, it went well. Managed to pick my way through the pack. Got up to I think 5th or 6th quite early on, and then it was just a hard battle for the rest of the race. I did get into 2nd for a few laps, but I missed a gear, my own fault, and back to 3rd, and then spent the rest of the race battling with Jack. He defended so well. I'm happy to go from 11th on the grid, I think I was, to 3rd. So next race, hope we can progress a bit further.
There were some terrific dices at Maggots and Beckett's for the likes of Aidan Hills and Jonathan Greensmith. I mean, that must have been trying desperately to look in 3 different directions at once.
It was like swatting a little swarm of flies around your head constantly. But yeah, no, you know, there's good clean racing, so that's what we do it for, isn't it?
Well, with a reverse grid, there's a great chance that maybe you can sprint away from the line and get off there.
Wouldn't that be a nice end to the weekend? Don't want to do that again. Far too manic. But yeah, we'll see.
I'm afraid you may have no choice. Thanks, James.
Cheers.